In this episode of Lowbuck Garage, I stuffed 2 electric vehicles inside this bus. I take a donut break, and I try to take a donut break.
And then I have a lot of burritos.
Chili relleno with meat. It's bacon, egg, and green chili. Steak, potato, and green chili.
Sausage, potato, and green chili.
Now I discovered something interesting. When you drive something this size, it's not particularly maneuverable. It's really not something you want to run around doing errands with. When we're driving, I needed a belt tensioner. I ended up circling the block a few times, finally giving up and parking down the road at a big parking lot and walking back to go pick it up. So I decided right then I need some kind of vehicle I can carry with me and then run errands with. Now this was my first thought. It'd be easy to mount a rack on the front bumper of this bus, and I've always thought of dual sport bikes as the ultimate go anywhere, do anything, total freedom vehicle. You just might be cruising down some road and say, hey, that's a nice mountain over there. I'd like to drive up that. And you can. You just point that way. Then all of a sudden, there you are, out in the middle of the mountains. There's lots of trails out here, but every once in a while, you're greeted with one of these. Now that means that this 2-wheel motorized knobby tire vehicle is not allowed to go that way. Luckily, I can go that way, and I'll be okay and still have some fun. That's the kind of sign I want to see. I'm starting to get hungry. It's about lunchtime. There's a town over there. They have burritos. Got a burrito, chili relleno with meat. Very good. And a place to eat it. We can just drive right up. The only problem is, back there, there's a bike path. I'm not allowed to drive my motorcycle through the park onto the bike path. That's a bit of an issue. I'll eat this and figure out a solution. Now I just got a delivery of an EUY e-bike. This is a folding electric bicycle. Let's see what it really looks like. Ooh, we got some assembly. Nice. And this is what's in the box. Lots of bits wrapped in foam. Come on. There we go. I bet there's instructions in here somewhere, but I'm not gonna look for them yet. It's like admitting defeat before you even try. Oh, there we go. The seat actually has suspension. So does the front end. Someone sent me a comment reminding me, and your zip ties, cut them off right near where they go in. Then you can reuse them again. You got another zip tie. So I'll be saving a lot of these. This box that the charger was in has a lot of fancy stuff. Tire pump. Nice wrench. That's a pretty nice Allen wrench set. And a fancy little note. Welcome for joining us on this special day. Oh, there's a manual down there. I'll look at that after I'm done. Now I'm curious as to what's in here. How special of a day is it? Activating the warranty service. Oh, that's special. That's kind of funny. This feels like an aluminum rim. Sure looks like a lot less maintenance than a regular spoked rim. You shouldn't have to do any tightening of anything because it's all one piece. I like that. Now a lot of this stuff is pre-assembled because it's a folding bike. You just take it and there, it's in riding position. Well, assembly's real easy. Looks like the most complicated assembly is the front fender because I might have to do 3 bolts. Now there is a bolt right here with no nut. So that just falls right out. I'm gonna crack open their Allen wrench set. Huh, all right, so we not only have Allen wrenches, it also has screwdrivers and sockets. This actually is pretty nice. I kind of like that. There's that bolt that I took out before. There's no nut for it. So that bolt is just floating in midair and not gonna hold anything on. 2 bolts did come with the wrench set, but they don't look like they're anything useful either. They're the same size. So those don't help me. So I'm actually gonna have to break down and look in the instructions. The instructions show how to install the headlight. They show that bolt, but they seem to think it just screws straight in. I'm wondering if there are supposed to be threads in there and there's not, and maybe there's a design change. I don't know. But I got a bin of metric hardware, so we're gonna solve this real fast. This looks about like an M6. So we go to the M6 drawer, and let's see if that works. Yep, perfect. Always need piles of stuff lying around. There we go, assembly's done. And the battery's still charging. So the total time to assemble this bike was way less than just charging the battery. I think it took more time to take the foam off it than to assemble the bike. That means I gotta wait for my test ride. I'm gonna give it a full charge before I try it out. The charging light is green, so we're ready to go. Press the M button. We got our speed, our battery, power assist level, and the odometer with absolutely nothing on it. It's a bell. Then we got a key slot marked ignition. Didn't mention this in the manual, so I'm just gonna ignore it, even though there is an off, on, and lock position. Handle on the battery, charge indicator. I pumped the tires up to 30 like they say on the sidewall, and I think we're all ready. Power on. First things first. Yep, it'll spin the tire. You could take a donut break. Nice. Hold a pretty steady 30. Now, it's starting to drop now. We're going up a little bit. Holding 27, this is a slight uphill. God, this thing has good brakes. You actually need them.
It's time to do a little off-road testing.
Now this folding electric bike is a great option. You can go at road speeds easily, you don't even have to pedal, you can carry stuff, and once you fold it up, it's compact enough to fit in a vehicle. So I thought I had the ultimate solution for portable transport. But then I got an email asking me to try out a scooter. Now I'm familiar with scooters. My kids both have them, and they come in tassels or non-tasseled varieties, and that's it. But then, as I was about to hit delete on the email, something caught my eye. It said 40 miles an hour. So I said, oh yeah, I'll try one out. It just arrived today. Let's open this thing up and see what we got. The instructions are right on top. That worries me a little bit. Might actually have to read them. Okay, I'm done. Probably a charger, and a little toolkit. Probably the exact same multi-tool, looks identical. There we go. It's pretty big. This thing need a kickstand or something? It has a kickstand. This goes up. There we go, that slides down. Comes with a spare tube. That's really handy. Ah, yeah, I'm feeling rebellious already. Oh, comes with different friction surfaces, so we can swap those out if we need to. Well, there's a little assembly. Pretty much we just bolt on the handlebars. All right, all this stuff is kind of floppy. Looks like I have to set it up wherever I want it and lock it down. There's 2 ports that look identical. This one is a little squished and wobbly, so I might not use that one. remember seeing something in the ad saying they could use 2 chargers to go faster, so I'm wondering if they're both the same. So I'm just going to pick this one that didn't get squished and plug the charger in that. Found these parts loose in the bottom of the box. Looks just like these, and there's another hole there. So I'm thinking this clamp was supposed to have 2 of these holding it together. This is where it pivots, and when you put it upright, this clamp slides down and locks it in place. There's a 3-piece here, there's a little collar there, a thumb screw to set the adjustment. We lock it down. Now that I've been looking into electric bikes a little more, a 750 watt motor is pretty standard and does pretty well. This thing has a 1,000 watt motor on that little bitty tire, and it's got a disc brake, but this is a hydraulic line. These aren't cable operated, they're hydraulic disc brakes. Of course, suspension, gotta have that, because you know, what scooter would be complete without that? But that's not all. Here's the front wheel, your steering wheel. Same kind of suspension, same hydraulic disc brake, same 1,000 watt motor in this tire too. This thing has twin motors, each 1,000 watts. Suspension feels pretty good. That's a fair amount of travel there. I can't wait to try this out. Now we turn on the key switch, and we have a speed, an odometer, a gear number. That doesn't really make sense. Let's press some mode buttons. All right, it's changed to gear 2, gear 3, probably a top speed setting or something like that. Here's the throttle. Kind of weird, the throttle's right here and the brakes are right here. Gotta make sure you get the right one when you go grab a handful of brake, because that could be bad. And then here, we have eco or turbo. We're just gonna put that to turbo mode. And single or dual. I bet you can use either 1 or 2 motors. All right, there's single mode. Go to dual. Works. Dug myself a hole. Let's see what this thing can do. I'll go right to mode 3 and see what happens. Front tire spinning on pavement. All right, speedometers in kilometers an hour. We're already over 50. That is booking it. 758 kilometers an hour. That's it, 58. We are topped out. This is definitely faster than the e-bike. The other thing, I rode about 5 or 6 kilometers. My legs are tired. You gotta push your legs to balance against braking and acceleration. I'm not in good shape. It's definitely a lot more exercise than the bike is. And you can't just sit and rest. You gotta keep standing on this thing no matter what if you wanna keep going. After my initial test ride, I found that each one of these needs a little bit of adjustment. So let's bring them to the shop and take care of that. This bike has some nice disc brakes. They look like they're well made. It's got the cotter pin release brake pads. They squeak a little, but they work fine. They have one major problem, and I've run into this problem in every bicycle I've ever had that has hand brakes. The problem is where the brake controls are. Now on the bikes I'm used to driving, this is the front brake, this is the clutch. That should always be the front brake, even if you don't have a clutch. But on bicycles, they make that the front brake, and that one's the rear. It's just completely backwards. So we're just gonna fix that here. Need a little slack. Now normally you just swap the cables around. This one actually has a wire tie type thing. This comes apart easy. Then we'll just switch it to the other one and put this all back together again. There, now it's set up properly. I don't know why bicycle manufacturers do it wrong, but they all do. Now I was happy to see on this scooter the brakes are set up properly. This side is a front brake, just like it's supposed to be. Looking at this gauge setup, it's all in kilometers an hour, and I poked a few buttons. I couldn't quite figure out how to actually change that. So I broke down a look at the manual. They've got a whole bunch of parameter settings that you can change. And one of them is the units. But they also have fun things like power level and start mode and other things you're not supposed to adjust. which kind of makes me want to adjust them. But for now, we'll just do the speedometer units. There we go, we're in parameters. This one is speedometer units. So now we're in mile. There's a lot of adjustments to tune this to your particular needs. So now that I've got it in miles per hour, let's see what our top speed is. I believe we have turbo mode, we have speed 3. Let's try a full throttle pass here. Ooh, tires spinning on pavement. Doing 33, 34, 35, 36. That's it, 36. Those brakes do really well. Well, with my weight on it, it won't do 40, but that doesn't really surprise me.
Next, I'm going to try it out off-road. Now the suspension works surprisingly well. I did notice that small soft spots would really slow me down. It looks like this is due to the small diameter tires. They just sink into the holes. Overall, this scooter really impressed me with its performance. Now I'm going to try the same thing with the folding bicycle. The larger diameter tires just rolled right through the soft spots.
This bike was rattling quite a bit. Seems like it's just the battery flopping around. It's securely in there, it's not going anywhere. But there's this metal brace here. Even though it's holding in place, it rattles, and I'm gonna fix that. Piece of foam and some scissors. This will do the trick. Put a few of these around here. Got a couple chunks of foam here. One more up front there. Now this electric bike has an advantage just because it is an electric bike. I'm at the same spot where I couldn't drive my dirt bike down this trail. But bicycles are allowed. So I can take this two-wheeled, motorized, knobby-tired vehicle right down that trail with no problem. Hill climbing's pretty good. That was a pretty steep one. Well, that's pretty neat. A couple times the electric assist cut out. I had to let off the throttle and give it again before it kicked back in. Wonder if it's the bumps or something, but it's working 95% of the time, and it's way better than always pedaling. This is all electric power here. And then downhill. We got gravity power now. Well, it doesn't do serious off-roading anywhere close to a dirt bike. However, it does it way better than any bicycle I've ever tried. That definitely has its uses in exploring. Let's bring it back somewhere that's a little more suitable. I'm at the same park. This time I can go on that bike path. It's actually a little tight cornering here at this speed. Now, there's not a good place to put a burrito on the handlebars on this bike. But there's a nice rack on the back. Not just one, I got enough for the whole family here. Wonder which one's mine. It's bacon, egg, and green chili. That should be good.
Let's compare that feature to the scooter.
The burrito carrying capacity of this scooter is marginal, and you need to bring your own tape. Now, beyond the critical burrito capacity issue, there's another issue with this scooter that you need to be aware of. Now, I called a friend of mine in law enforcement, making sure to do it after I did my testing, and asked him about the legality of using this. And he said because it primarily moves with an electric motor, it's considered a motorized vehicle, and you can't use it on the bike paths.
And if you want to use it on the street, you have to have it registered and insured. So basically, you have to use this like it's an off-road only vehicle. Glad I called them after I did that testing. Now that I have 2 electric vehicles that are foldable and compact, I need to figure out a way to carry them. Now, I don't want a front rack because that'll block my view. I don't want a rear rack because that'll block engine access. I want to stuff them inside. So let's see how we can cram them inside this bus so you don't even know they're there. Now we have another thing that we don't need here. Right behind this vent. Let me take that off and we're going to look inside. My dad gave a shot at making a basement AC system where your AC unit is underneath the floor and the cold air blows up. He said it never worked quite right, and now I've got roof air. So this is just coming out entirely. I'm just going to start undoing stuff randomly until it looks like it's going to fall out. Then I'll make it fall out, hopefully in a controlled manner. Didn't expect that to be that tight. There we go. It appears to be attached still. So now I've got a spot for storage, and it's a pretty good size. We've got the wheel well there, got the frame rail there, we got a diesel tank here, and the floor there. So that's fairly good room, but is it enough? Now will that fit in there? No, that's not happening. Well, this door is pretty big. Now this was originally a closet. When the generator was installed, it became the exhaust for the generator, generator controls, generator surge tank, basically generator stuff, and some empty space. But that empty space is what I'm looking at. This is looking like a good place to hook onto to lift it. Got a box of pulleys up there. I knew these would come in handy. I found a spool of rope under my workbench and an old luggage tie down from a Grand Cherokee. This is going to be my lifting system. This wire is right in my way. I just disconnected that wire for now. I got enough room here. I can try out this compartment and see if the bike fits. Found something interesting. These are actual sheets of lead. Like, you know, lead. Flexible, bendable, laying on the floor. That's the generator. I'm thinking these are here for sound deadening, covering up the generator so it doesn't vibrate the floor. But I'm going to leave it here because I have no better place to put it. Let's see. This is a plausible idea at all. Oh, and it's unfolding itself. It's funny, when I pictured this happening, I pictured me pulling lightly on the rope and it gracefully just falling in. Not quite how it works. This handlebar keep attacking me. Let me go inside and pull it the rest of the way. I think I can do this. Didn't go gracefully, but technically it's in. Now the wire that was across everything, I just disconnected, and now it's here. It doesn't reach that electrical box anymore. So I gotta do something about that. So I took the wires I had, ran them to an outlet. Then I took that outlet and ran that to the box. So now I not only extended my wires, I've got an outlet inside the closet where the bike's going, so I can plug in my charger. Now this door doesn't have an exterior handle, but it looks like it used to. There is a handle here on the inside. I did a little bit of exploratory surgery. Here is the upper handle and latch. And then down here, looks like the old latch. And this has a pin drive. Looks like this pin goes through that hole. And there's where the handle's supposed to be. Well, I filed off the rough edges, and that's a 5/16 square. Just looks like it broke off a little bit. And here's my miscellaneous weird socket drawer, which has all the square drive stuff. 3/8. That's rusty. 5/16 rusty. Oh, and there's another rusty 5/16. I can spare one. Now that square drive would drive this fine. And it fits that hole pretty nicely.
That's pretty close in diameter.
These bearings are just a bronze insert into a stamped metal holder. They're just squished in place. You can pop them apart. There we go. That'll work better. Now we just pop this back together. We now have a self-aligning bearing that fits that socket. Now this socket is going to drive here. The end's a little bit mangled and I want it closer, so I'm just going to trim that off and take up that gap there. That's better. I took the square drive socket and attached it to a 3/8 adapter with just a little bit of liquid metal. And there's a step there, so the bearing only fits here. That part won't go through. I'm going to drill a hole in it for a roll pin so that it's attached pretty securely, but the pin can be driven out to take that apart. Just barely enough room to fit that in there, but it works. There's a stop here that keeps that from turning that way. This rod is way below. So in order to actually put this in place, I have to lift up the latch, which pulls it in some. So I don't want to do that. There's an adjustment. So we're going to adjust that out of it. Might explain why the handle was broken off. Someone was trying to make it latch and it was hitting the stop, preventing it from latching all the way. Now I just have to get the cotter pin in here. I could not get that cotter pin in on the back side, so I just spun the rod around halfway. I'm going to put the cotter pin on this side where I can get to it easier. There we go. Whole mechanism's done. Let's try it out. It may seem inconvenient to just have a square drive sticking out to operate it. In a previous video I made this, which is a square drive for the rear engine compartment. Happens to be 3/8. There we go. I'll button up the interior panel and call that one done. Now that the door's working, I gotta get this bike in that compartment. Last time I think I made it overly complicated. This bike isn't that heavy. Let's start the folding process here. These handlebars come off real easy. I don't see any reason I should actually leave them attached. Just gonna pop those out entirely, fold that down even further, pop the seat off entirely. We'll just throw that in ahead of time. Set that down, bring this together. Oh, maybe right about there. I don't know. I may have found the trick here. The key thing is turn the front wheel 180 degrees so it's pointing backwards where it normally would be, which moves the steering post into the middle and folds the whole thing up a little tighter. I might be able to get this in now. Now, we put that bar that protects the sprocket on the end. We rotate it upwards gracefully, kinda. Just got hit in the face with handlebars. All right, now gracefully I said, we roll it up and in, still gracefully. Keep that in mind. Pretend that's actually what's happening. We're almost there. Oh, pedal. You gotta keep rotating stuff as you go in so it clears. Rotate it, still gracefully, remember that. We did it. It's in there. But now the real test. It closes. We've got an electric bike stuffed in a closet from the outside. A few tie downs here and we'll be all set to go. Added a couple more tie down points and a ratchet strap to pull it up and over, and then another one just in case. So this thing's held in securely and I can get to all my electronics, all the generator controls. Everything's just as functional as it was, with the addition of an electric vehicle inside the closet. Now this has possibilities. Now in here, we've got a lot of space. I still have the all-thread coming down from the air conditioner, and I kept the old frame that connected to that. So I've got a support that'll hang here below the main frame rail of the bus. But I'm also looking all the way over there. That's another storage compartment. Seeing how this bus is rear-engined, there's no drive shaft or anything to get in the way here. Well, this is the compartment on the other side. There's a pretty good amount of room in here. A strange block of foam with duct tape on it. The structure of the floor is a little bit questionable. I think I'm going to rip this entire floor out. And then over there is that other compartment. We're going to see if we can connect the two and make a big one.
That one does not want to come off. There we go, finally. Looks like that rubber flap is actually what's holding it. Well, this rubber flap appears to be held in by a piece of U-channel that's just shoved over the frame. That's a nice simple solution, and it seems to hold it real well. And it's easy to remove. I like everything about this. There we go. And I got a clear span all the way to the other side. Now I need to figure out a new floor for this compartment. There's some Z-shaped channel bolted to the bottom here, and that looks really good for putting a cross member on. The only problem is this doesn't go all the way up front, but it goes back further. So I'm gonna pop these bolts off and just move the whole thing forward. That way it lines up with the one over there. I want some way to hold this door up while I work on it. So I'm thinking of running a chain upwards to hang it on. So I've been thinking about what to do, and then I got some inspiration from this rust hole. Just gonna make that rust hole a little bit bigger. Oh, that was easy. Now I need another hole right above it at about the same distance. Now all I need is a piece of threaded rod with 2 nuts on it. Now I got a place to hook to that doesn't stick out of the body at all. And I bet once I paint it, it'll barely be noticeable. Gotta get down to the box of miscellaneous chain bits. There we go. That'll do. To the drawer of miscellaneous hooks. Even these are too big. They're lying around the floor. Oh hey, there we go. It's good to have stuff you can trip over. Now, it'll be a lot easier to work in there. I'm gonna add one extra hole. There's somewhere to hook the chain when I go to close it so it's not flopping around to me. Found a sheet of metal in the pile that looks like it's just about perfect for the floor. The width is right, just gotta trim off an end. Probably should have gone in from the wider side. That actually seems to fit. Nice. I'm going to put this under it and tighten it up with a threaded rod, and that'll support the floor inside. And it's already all done for me, so this will be easy. As big as this bus is, it's not tall. There's not a whole lot of room under here. I want this cross member as close as possible to that threaded rod, so I'm going to remove these tabs to give myself a little more clearance. Now the whole floor is supported. I don't even have to make anything. It's just reusing stuff. The moment of truth. Does this actually fit? Most of the way. Now that rear suspension mount is what's hitting. Looks like I only need about maybe 2 inches of clearance more, and this would fit. Let's try this side. It's in there. Fits in that one. I flipped the direction around so it faces forward because the pivot of that steering post is the highest point. But I've got a couple inches to spare there, and that fits. The bottom of this battery is a skid plate anyway, because that's what hits all the rocks when you go over stuff. I found an old piece of shipping crate that had a couple blocks of wood and some foam on it. And if I sit that on top of this rail, that seems to fit decently. We've got clearance on that arm. The tire sticks down just a little bit, but so does the bolts and the fuel line crossover, the septic line. It's about the same height as some other stuff that's hanging down. So that's not excessive. I think this will work. So now I just have to attach it in place in there, make sure that block doesn't move. Run a bunch of bolts through the edges, through the sheet metal, and got all that in. I also attached some of this pre-perforated angle. I attached it to the front edge and connected it to this fender. So that way, not only does it work for structure, there's a lot of holes to use on tie downs. Did the same thing in the back. This angle is bolted right to this rail. And this piece of old packing crate is now screwed into that surface with a stop on the end. So hopefully I can just sort of slide this in and it just fits perfect. That actually went surprisingly easy. But I'm going to try just tying it down as is and see how it looks. We might be set here. It's tied down, pulling forward and down in the front, going across the battery pack where you stand in the back. So those are both sturdy points. This thing is rigid. It's in there. Even if the straps let go, it can't go forward because of that wall. It can't go sideways because of that frame rail. It can't go backwards because this cross member will hit here, and it can't come out once I close that door. I didn't tie the handlebars down yet. I've got these excess tails, so I'm going to sort of wrap that around the handlebars and hold that in place. Even as is, those handlebars aren't going anywhere because they're bolted on the pivot. One electric vehicle stored securely on the bus.
The only logical thing to do now was to go camping and do some more testing.
We're at 7,500 feet elevation now. Let's see if I can pop this out a little more gracefully than I put it in. There we go. I'm getting better at it. I ended up unplugging one of these wires. There we go. So now I'm at a campground. We're parked, we're set up. I can go run errands. So let's run some errands. Just going to do a little exploring. Just cruising along. It's nice scenery out here. It's kind of cool to just cruise along. Take a good time. I'm not even bothering with pedaling. Been caught in a little bit of a rainstorm, but bike's doing fine. Only issue I have is the brakes got really squeaky. Let me show you. The nearest store was 4 miles away, but no big deal because I didn't even have to pedal most of the way. I brought one of the ratchet straps I used to hold the bike in place in the RV, had on the back here. Now I got a pile of snacks I can bring back to everyone. I hit an unexpected bump in the road. I should have tied this on better. I'll tie it on better now. Good thing everything is pre-packaged. This is what road rash in a shopping bag looks like. I think I'm eating whatever's on the bottom. Hopefully that secures it a little better. Only about 3 more miles to go that way. Should be no problem. Sun's coming out. Nice breeze is drying me off. Cruising along at a decent clip with some beautiful scenery. This is nice. I think I still have food. Yep, things are going well. Hope you guys can see it. I got a rainbow over there. Made it back. 8-mile round trip. I definitely would never have walked there. Probably wouldn't have taken a regular bike. But on this thing, really wasn't a big deal. Except for the rain I ran into, but that's not really the bike's fault. Still got almost 70% battery left. And that was pretty much all electric power at full speed for 8 miles. Let's see how the scooter did. Doesn't look like it's budged at all. Looks exactly the same spot I left it. Even the same little bit of squish in the front tire. So that carrying method works perfect. Done. The small size makes this scooter far easier to transport. It really would fit very easily in a lot of vehicles. One thing I've noticed is after you have it folded down and then unfold it, these brakes are real low. It takes a few pumps to get them up where they need to be. If you just folded it, hit the brakes a few times before you go full speed.
I took it cruising around the campground and checked out some of the sites nearby.
I found a goat. Hi, goat.
Then I took the bike out on the same route just for comparison.
goat's just hanging out here. They both work for portable transport, but they serve two different purposes. This bike, it's a little harder to transport, it's bigger, it has a lot of utility, you can carry stuff, you can go places, and it pretty much flies under the radar. So if you're in a quiet RV park with a conservative crowd, that bike's the one you want. That scooter is not something I want to drive around town. I'm not sure about the legality of it. It's probably not legal to drive on the road, and it kind of looks like you're about to do something to get in trouble. That one, I think, is more fun to just blast around. This one for more utility. Those are my thoughts for now. Let's time how long it takes to load this stuff up. Done. Now let's time this one. Hopefully I've learned how to do this a little better. This rolls upwards. I almost drop it. Door hits me. It's all going according to plan. There. And time. Quite honestly, that went a lot smoother than last time. I think eventually I'll get the hang of it, but it's definitely more complicated to load than the scooter. I realized I took this scooter on the wrong kind of camping trip. What I needed to do was camp like I used to a few decades ago. Then I would take whichever SUV happened to be running at the time, fold down the rear seats, because this is where I'm going to be sleeping, add a cooler, tools, sleeping bag with optional pillow, and now a toy to go play in the desert with. And then when you're out camping in the middle of nowhere, you can have some fun with it. This is just too much fun. So now it comes down to trying to figure out which one is best. But trying to compare a gasoline-powered motorcycle to an electric vehicle is like trying to compare apples to burritos. This one's steak, potato, and green chili. They're just in two different categories. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to fit this bike inside that bus in one piece. So, for my purposes, I gotta eliminate this one. So now it's down to these two. But the key thing here is this bus. This is not an off-road vehicle. About the most opposite you can get. Anywhere it goes is going to be near civilization. And this bike is a more civilized choice. It's legal to drive pretty much anywhere, and it's very useful. The scooter, on the other hand, is very uncivilized, which is both good and bad. It makes it less useful for my purposes of having transport when I park the bus, because most of the places I park that, I'm not going to be able to ride that. It also makes it more fun to ride. This is normal. That's a riot. If you're somewhere you can use that, that's a lot of fun. They're both good, but this is the one that's staying in that bus. So now I know I'm keeping this in here, I got to get better at loading it. I'm going to try adding a strap and a bungee cord. This one has clips on it, but Velcro would work fine, because I think the problem I'm having is that it keeps unfolding. I want to hold it together while I lift it in, so I think that'll work better. And go. Well, that was better. I'll get the hang of this yet. I had an awful lot of fun in this episode. I hope you guys are having fun too. We'll see you next time. Now time for another lens on that one.